Hello, everybody. Sorry for not recording a video in 3 weeks. Wow, 3 weeks. But then again, 2 months. Now that I think about it, it's kind of sad that we've gotten to this point where 3 weeks is basically nothing compared to what I've done. I mean, unless you count the re-uploaded TikToks. That ain't anything. Anyway, so first off, thank you for the support on the TikToks that I don't own, which you probably already know if you read the description. One of them got over 150 views, which I'm very happy of. Thank you for any long-time viewers who have viewed my channel since the beginning. Thank you for watching my channel. I know it's garbage, but hey, whatever. This one is for the FNAF theorists out there. If you read the title, then this theory solves not only who the vengeful spirit is, but also what is in the box, and solves Golden Freddy and Ultimate Custom Night. Hold on, I'm gonna get a drink for this. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna get a water. Guys, we need water. A good Essentia water. This channel ain't sponsored by it. It's just damn good water. Anyway, back to the point. I think I just solved what's in the box, and I solved who the vengeful spirit is. And to top it all off, I for one, think that FNAF 4 and Secret of the Mimic and Security Breach solved Ultimate Custom Night. So, basically, I saw this video by Unwithered Truth. Go check them out. And it was of this video where they suggested that David Murray was the vengeful spirit. And he kind of brushed off the God David theory. Spoiler alert, this theory will be building off the God David theory. You know, the theory that suggests that the crying child and Gregory are the same as David Murray. Basically, all three of those boys are the same. Yeah. Another thing it's going to be built off is one that Bagels, you know, the guy who who spams out really good Five Nights at Freddy's animations, SFMs, like based off theories. One of those theories suggested that the crying child, after the bite of 83, after having one final nightmare in a coma, he had one last hallucination of his plushies supporting him, and he took that memory with him and became Nightmare, you know, from FNAF 4, you know, on night 7. Anyway, back to the point. Anyway, this theory, as I said earlier, is going to build off those two. Anyway, so one thing that I noticed. Hold on. One thing that I noticed, like when playing Ultimate Custom Night, is that I died by Mangle, first off. Fuck you, Mangle. Actually, no, you're a pretty cool character. So, I died by her, and I got her voice line that said, "He's here and always watching, the one you shouldn't have killed." How's my Mangle impression? Pretty ass, honestly. So, up to this point, I believed that the vengeful spirit was Cassidy, You know, one of the MCI victims that got stuffed into Golden Bolden Freddy. Or Yellow Bear, as I like to call him. Then I remembered Cassidy is female. So that didn't make sense to me. I was scratching my chin for a bit on that one. When I talked to one of my friends about it, he said that maybe it was the retcon that Scott was talking about. You know, Scott Coffin. But that doesn't make sense because that was made before Ultimate Custom Night. And he said up to this point there was only one retcon. And it was before Ultimate Custom Night. So that does not make sense. Then I realized something. I did realize something. As I said before, I believe in the theory that the crying child and Nightmare are the same being. Hold on, I'm gonna turn the light on. It's dark in here. I realized that Nightmare was on there, and I was like, what the fuck? Isn't he a hallucination? And then I also realized that when you beat 50-20, you get a cutscene where Golden Freddy is tweaking out. So I was like, okay, what the fuck? What's the correlation between... Oh my god. It all clicked. There's only one other spirit in Golden Freddy, because, you know, there's two. And that is Dave Afton, or the Crying Child. The Crying Child is somehow both Nightmare and the Vengeful Spirit. I couldn't believe it. And then after that, I saw TD Dread's God David video, and I sort of scoffed at it. Then once I merged the Unwithered Truth, Secret of the Mimic / UCN video, then with the video I just watched, with the correlations I made, then with Matt Pat's controversial Glamrock Freddy / Michael Afton and Crying Child / Gregory theory, it all made sense. Alright, let me explain. So, this is not going to make sense, and it's probably going to teeter towards more fan fiction, but before I tell you that, I'm going to give a little more evidence that the Crying Child is the Vengeful Spirit. Alright. Sorry, I just had to spit something out. Alright. So we know Withered Chica is an Ultimate Custom Night, right? And we also know that she has a voice line that says, I was the first, I have seen everything. Meaning, she was the first. Now, this part, this can mean two things. One of them is from Unwithered Truth's video. So I thought that meant she was the first of the MCI, and she might have saw, you know, the Crying Child. Maybe she was old enough to know what he was, who he was, like, and stuff like that. Maybe she also saw the Bite of 83. Maybe she saw her dog getting ran over, because, you know, that's a pretty iconic piece of FNAF at this point. Pretty sad. Play a violin for Susie's dog. Okay, yeah, okay, skip that. And, so that was my thought, personally. Sorry about that. My throat does not want to cooperate. Another thing, on top of that, Unwithered Truth suggested that Withered Chica was suggesting that since she was the first character, because MCM and Henry Emily made her for Chica's party world, that was why she was referring to her as the first. But what I'm suggesting is that it's both the things I listed. It makes sense. Like, honestly, like, the character Chica was made first, and she saw David Murray running around, and Susie, you know, the spirit inside Chica, was one of the first of the MCI to die. She was old enough to see the events and remember them, and she's seen everything, including Dave Afton. Because in another one of her voice lines, she says that she has seen him. Like, she straight up said she has seen him. So, another thing that I noticed is Nightmare Foxy not being an Ultimate Custom Night. That didn't make any sense to me when I was younger, but I actually have a reason for that, and it is pretty interesting. You see, Nightmare Foxy might represent the Nightmare animatronics. 4 of the Nightmare animatronics could represent the FNAF 4 bullies, and they could represent the earliest Freddy Springlock suits. You know, like the un-Nightmare animatronics. They're just cheap Springlock suits. Combine that with the David Murray infused with him, causing him to see some shit, like really start tweaking, along with his bullies, and with, you know, the whole seeing the Springlocks thing. That made him terrified and have nightmares. The first 4 nights of Five Nights at Freddy's 4, he had nightmares where he was in a different house with 2 doors on either side and a closet in the middle with David Murray's toys sitting in front of him. And there was his bed behind him where smaller versions of Freddy would pop up and he would have to flash them away. Then on night 5, it focuses on his true fear, and that was Fredbear. Nightmare Fredbear, in fact. And that might have been that might have been a warning on what the fuck was going to happen, because you see the emphasis on teeth on Nightmare Fredbear? I mean, they all had really scary teeth, but Nightmare Fredbear had really scary teeth. Like 2 rows of huge, sharp metal teeth, and teeth on the stomach. I think that was sort of a early warning on what was going to happen to him. But since the crying child is only like 3 years old, and he's too worried about being scared, and since this is FNAF, he didn't heed the warning, and he ended up getting bitten by his 4 bullies. He had one final nightmare where all 5 of them were active. Then he had a hallucination before he truly passed, where plushy versions of Freddy and Bonnie and Chica and Foxy, and of course Fredbear, were supporting him and saying they were going to put him back together. He made that hallucination a part of him, and you know what came after that? Nightmare. You know, the black version of Fredbear with a yellow top hat and the yellow bow tie. Yeah, I one time saw this post in the source, I once was in the source code for one of the FNAF 4 teasers, and I swear, I saw this thing where it was, help, my name is Cece, and I have a yellow hat in my dreams, and I have a black hat IRL, or in real life. That was just my abbreviated version of it. Yeah, I have no clue where it's at now. I just saw it somewhere and then never saw it again. Or maybe it was a hallucinogenic nightmare William Afton cooked up for me. I don't know. I saw it somewhere. Anyway, as Nightmare... As Nightmare, Cece, the crying child, would end up hunting down Michael for one night before he encountered a blue box with 2 locks on it. He opened the box, and inside was Fredbear. Well, Fredbear plush. He picked it up, and he woke up as Fredbear. His spirit has transferred into Fredbear. Well, the employees noticed that Fredbear's eyes, not his eyes, Fredbear's top hat and bow tie were now black instead of purple. You see where I'm going with this? You know, like the source code that I never saw again said that yellow in dreams and black in real life. In real life, Fredbear's hat is now black, but in dreams, aka Nightmare, the hat is yellow. You see where I'm going with this? I saw it from an old post in the source code. Like really deep in the source code, like translate it into Google 4 times, then into Spanish, then gone in a blink of an eye type of never saw again. Also, I don't think the custom nights are canon, except for Ultimate Custom Night. Sorry, Fritz Smith is William Afton Fury. Anyway, so why do I also think that the crying child and David are the same? Well, it comes down to them having a really similar appearance and the fact that well, it's kind of it, but not really. It's implied that William Afton killed David, then stole David, and then made him his son, which is impossible because isn't David Murray the white tiger that got burned in the MCM fire? How is that possible? Well, it's possible that William Afton took the burnt remains of the the white tiger costume, and the crying child somehow got infused with it during Fall Fest in 1983. That's probably a little bit of a stretch, but kind of makes sense if you think about it. Sort of. Anyway. Combined everything with the crying child and what David has been through with his mom dying and having a robot replace her and being ran over and randomly infused into this child that got bullied. Yeah, I could see the crying child becoming vengeful, or the spirit itself, David being vengeful. Alright, so another thing I noticed is that In Ultimate Custom Night, the vengeful spirit speaks through the mediocre melodies, and the voice kind of sounds like a high-pitched and hushed voice of a little boy. And you also got to understand that the voice, like, he's basically 3 years old, like, at most. So it'd be a very high-pitched and hushed voice behind an animatronic voice. So it really could be anything, like a little boy. So the 3 animatronics that the crying child / David Murray, or Dave Afton, speaks through is Orville Elephant, Happy Frog, and Ned Bear. We've seen prototypes of these animatronics in Secret of the Mimic, which were then sold to Stan's Budget Tech. I know, Stan was a bit of a hustler. He got his wishes. He wished he was a little bit tall. He wished he was a baller. Okay, I'll stop. So, combine this with what I told you. It seems like pretty damning evidence, doesn't it? But wait, there's more. So you know how there's a ton of references to Nightmarion and the puppet in the later games? Especially in Ultimate Custom Night. So my thinking is that since it was heavily implied that the puppet and Golden Freddy are friends, or at least the spirits, what I think is that the puppet would okay, hold on. I'm thinking. The puppet, aka Charlie, would try and stop this vengeful spirit, and in result would end up being trapped in Ultimate Custom Night, forced to target William. And since by this point we know that that the Halloween update is canon, I mean, the characters have appeared in way too many games for it to be otherwise. I mean, come on, we know this. My thinking is that since Nightmarion is the nightmare version of the puppet, Dave would use the puppet in some of his attempts to try and torture Michael, even though he couldn't do it. And that might also solve Midnight Motorist, where we see animatronic footsteps after Charlie's murder. 3 toes. Therefore, I think it's Fredbear that basically broke into Michael's room, dragged Michael out of his room, and beat him up, and dragged him to the pizzeria, or the diner, because, Fredbear's from the diner, and used his nightmare energy to make a false version of the puppet and torment Michael. This false puppet was basically Nightmare Puppet, or Nightmarion. And this one had an even more special connection, because the false puppet had a lot of agony. Oh, hold on. Yeah, they had a lot of agony and remnant from Charlie's death. So, what would end up happening is that Nightmare On would have the same jump scare noise and would also have a lot of the same abilities and capabilities of Nightmare. I'm sorry if this is starting to sound a little bit lazy, but I'm trying as hard as I can, dude. I'm tired, bro. Just got out of school, man. It's on, bro. Anyway, I also touched on a bit on how Gregory is also the same as the vengeful spirit. This also comes down to Gregory looking the same as the crying child and David Murray, but also of being a result of the anger, because Gregory being brutal in Security Breach is pretty iconic at this point. And I think a part of that is him being aggressive, because he just got out of Ultimate Custom Night from tormenting someone after William escaped. He's not going to be happy. And that's why I think that Glamrock... Alright, so I also mentioned that this also came from Game Theory's They're All Afton theory, where he said that Glamrock Freddy is Michael Afton and that the crying child is Gregory. But I think that that Gregory and Glamrock Freddy would be a more impactful bond, because Michael was a dick to Cece. There's no way around the crying child. There's no way around it. And a part of that is the fact that William Afton never monitored his children. Like, he was always a crappy father. Yeah, I said that about you, William Afton. Fight me, bitch. So, yeah. There's a bit of that in there. And also, like again, sorry for sounding repetitive. Glamrock Freddy and Gregory going together and becoming friends would be impactful, because after the years of hating Michael, that means the crying child finally forgave his brother. It's truly a beautiful moment if you're looking at the bigger picture. Truly beautiful. Yeah. I remember it. Anyways, that's all for me. Oh, wait. Oh, hold on. One more thing. In Ruin, it's implied that the Mimic grabbed Gregory, but the Mimic was meant to protect David. So you might be wondering, well, why isn't Gregory hurt? Well, what if the Mimic didn't hurt him and just said, hello, how are you doing? Because the Mimic was supposed to protect Gregory. It became extra aggressive when Agony got put into it. Like, by the spirit of William Afton piloting it and becoming Burn Trap. That's my personal theory. So, yeah, it's kind of it for me. So, yeah, this was one of my favorite theories, that I've made on this channel, and I hope you enjoy. Yeah. See ya! And remember, always enjoy the small things in life. That sounds like a dick joke. I did not mean to end this video on a dick joke.